What's up? What's up? What's up? Thank you, my friends. We appreciate your patience. We had some technical difficulties there earlier. The reason why is I'm joined, and I'm blessed to be joined in studio live with the Big Chonis, and I'm Big Cheds. We were just trying to throw something together for you guys to give you a quick update because we saw there was some action in the market. How are you doing today, Big Chonis?
Hey Cheds, how are you today? Happy to be here with you live in person on this afternoon, this sunny afternoon finally. Lots of action happening over the past 12 hours there. We wanted to discuss it with you and you, our audience, and try and figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, I think it helps to have someone you can bounce ideas off of, because when I'm not sure of what's going on, I like to kind of see your perspective. And, through that idea exchange, I think we get a good end result. So, folks, just as a quick reminder, you can find me on Twitter at Big Cheds right here. And you can find my friend here on Twitter at Big Chonis as well. Please do check out the blog if you're just getting started, The Complete Beginner's Guide to Cryptocurrency Trading. Even if you're not just getting started, a lot of good resources there for you. And, of course, please do subscribe to YouTube. So Big Chonis, right now we're looking at a pullback, a little bit of a movement here. We had this sideways consolidation period here, and we were thinking it could bounce. But most of us who've been watching this, we're not really expecting to bounce. We're expecting a bear flag or a pennant to form, and it looks like it just broke down even before that could form. So we're gonna have to kind of see how this settles out. But it's starting to fall, and we're going to be testing some resistance soon. I see a couple levels here, Big Chonis. Just some horizontal support levels, rather, not test resistance support. Some areas to look out for between 65 and 66. What are you seeing here in the market?
Yeah, Chad, we were watching this last night. One of the things that we noticed last night was the gravestone doji that was put in on the hourly. And let's zoom in there and kind of take a peek at it.
You had a great tweet where you pointed that out, that gravestone doji. So that gave people a warning sign last night at 7,100. We'll go ahead and I want to pull that up real quick just so we can see what we're talking about. Look at that, right? 17 hours ago. So that's why candlestick reading is important. Look at that gravestone doji. So, and what happened after that?
It was pretty nasty doji there. And basically what that told the market was maybe the bulls were beginning to run out of steam. We did basically try and put in a test of that top area, and as soon as that got rejected on the first red candle there, kind of told the market that this run was basically done. That's why you had that huge capitulation candle, this morning. That last little push there, you could kind of argue was that bull trap, because you were like, oh wow, it's going to overcome that doji, which pierced the Bollinger there on the hourly and pulled back, and that was kind of that last little bull trap area that sucked in just a little bit more money, and that's when the floor definitely fell off from under it.
I mean, look at how much of a bull trap it was, Big Chonis. Look at the high of this candle was what? 71.63. We closed at 71.65. So you're looking at this and you're thinking that's a buy signal in theory because you closed above. So, I mean, talk about a bull trap, right? Closing above that. You're like, oh, okay, we invalidated the gravestone doji. And then boom, see you later.
I notice this happens a lot with Bitcoin, is that it will do a double top in a moment. And you see that a lot where it topped off and then it tries to make one more push, and all those little pushes actually become these bull traps. And that's a pure example of what we saw last night. Well, a couple things that were interesting. Let's zoom out just a hair here. What we saw in this candle here is it really wiped out a lot of that price action that we've been watching over the past several days here. I was using the bottom of this wick right here as kind of an area where, if it broke this area right here, that'd be really bad. And you see it actually right there was where the candle stopped initially and then kept on going. So because it broke that area right there, it really took out that nice impulse wave and put in. Now technically and it tested it right there perfectly. So technically we still are holding a higher low compared to where we were a week ago when we basically were tested and then retested the 6,500 area there. We're not too far off from that right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we go down there. And now we're talking about a triple test in this area here. And most of the time when you test something 3 times, it's kind of break through. You're giving it that last shot there. So it could put in a higher low barely. You want to see if it breaks down from that previous low there you have circled there. If that breaks, we know where the next support is there.
65.
And if 65, and if that breaks, now we might start talking about a retest of that double bottom in the 58 to 6100 area there.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think we might see more slow bleed too. I mean, I'd prefer not to see a slow bleed. You want to have the Band-Aid ripped off, right? Because most of us are looking for. I had a friend ask me last night, what's a buying sign? I said a buying sign would be a big capitulation and then a bottom forming, right? Not like more continued slightly upward like we had yesterday. I mean, I had a friend, he was trying to FOMO in. He was not trying to. He was feeling that FOMO, right around this Gravestone Doji area. And he's like, what's a buy signal? It's like, I'm not looking for buy signals here. We're too far from that. I need a capitulation and a bottom first, because the market sentiment is that one's coming.
That's why you asked me last night, is this a trade zone, is a no trade zone? And I felt even though the Bitcoin could potentially rise $100, maybe $200, maybe $300 more, I just felt the risk versus reward at that point wasn't there. We were looking at a lot of indicators, especially the 4 hour was topped off again over almost a 3-day area. We've seen it before when the stock RSI on the 4 hour gets topped off. It can stay up there for a couple of days, but today we were heading into that kind of 3rd day area where it's never able to hold on that long, and we see it falling. We also saw some of that bearish divergence in the OBV as well.
That's an excellent point. Let's go ahead and take, so that's, just to quickly wrap up where I think we are in Bitcoin. I zoomed out to 4 hours. So we clearly have some support. So I could see it. What's that?
Sell candles.
Yeah, there's you can see some sell volume, but it's slightly decreasing. So you actually can imagine 2 more candles like this on the 4 hour, Big Chonis. And you could see us probably have like a doji, a really tight candle, right body, and then flatten out and then bounce. So I could see this settling around 65 and bounce back to 68. So I'd be kind of looking out for that type of move, and then maybe continue back down. Litecoin right now is at 113. And I was talking to you last night, and in between bottles of Macallan 50 we were drinking, I said, it's like, I'm looking at this. I'm like, what do I do with Litecoin 117? Like, what am I supposed to do with Litecoin 1? It's right over here, right? Where I've like, this is a 4 hour chart. Whenever this was, I have 7 4 hour candles in a row, basically sideways at 117. It's like, what am I supposed to do here, right? Am I buying into weakness? Some. Am I selling into strength? It's just it's like a who knows zone where you can't really do anything. There's no clear signals. Certainly not strength. And kind of here we are now at 113. What do you see is going on?
There was a nice little trap set, I feel, last night when Litecoin was able to break over 120 and top out about 122. In last night's show, we talked about how that 122 area was just about $10 above its most recent bottom at the 112 area. And it kind of felt like, oh, that was a good, definitely profit-taking area if you were able to kind of scoop up towards that net bottom on that previous low of 112. And sure enough, that 122 area was that top-off point. Never was able to get much higher there. And now we're back to an area again where you really can't have a lot of confidence in any of these bounces anymore. We've kind of worn out the steam of this previous little impulse wave here. The 4 hour is resetting, but still hasn't reset all the way. I've hit up the daily to get us basically a sense of where we are there. The daily basically shows still has a little more room to run. The RSI is definitely pretty low there, so it would have room to run if the market basically was showing that's what it wanted. But on the daily, if we zoom in on the candle, that's a kind of a nasty candle we're looking at right there. Can we get rid of that circle there just so we can see it better? And that basically will tell you that if we start closing in this area right now, it's forming a somewhat of a shooting star. It's not there yet.
Could it be a W bottom?
Well, we have this kind of very nice like loop-de-loop bottom there, so even at 113, are you really capitulating to drop it under 100 at this point here in this low volume? Probably not there yet. It could bounce around this area again for some time still as Bitcoin figures out what it wants to do. The volume is still low, obviously showing that we're nowhere near kind of a bottoming moment on Litecoin yet, but there's a lot of money in this range here still. So because of that, there's kind of a base here. It would take a really big dip of Bitcoin to really perpetuate that drop under 110. If we were to break that 109, which was kind of our bottom we hit a week or so ago, now we're talking about potentially some increased volume and some increased volatility, and to kind of see if those hands can be shook of their coin and try to test that 100 area, which I think inevitably we'll have to test at some point, probably pretty soon.
All right, that's interesting. I was just kind of, while you were talking, I was just taking a look at this, trying to figure out. I'm always trying to like find a pattern. You know, I want to see some rationale of what's going on. I see a clearly defined downtrend line. So this could be essentially a descending triangle, big Chonis, but I really don't know what else to think. It could be a W bottom for me. I was just pointing out that, you know, maybe we have a descending triangle perhaps. We at least have this well-defined downtrend line to watch on the daily chart. And we do have this tight range as well. We have a flat bottom. And you did rightly point out we have some nice volume in this area. And I'm just kind of highlighting here the volume by price indicator. Big Jonas?
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if we retest that trend line that you drew there. We kind of almost got to it. But if you take this line here just a little higher to get it right above that red guy there.
Well, why would I though? Where am I putting it on? The candle close, you know, the open. Sorry.
Oh, so you see that?
Yeah, you have to use a candle body. What else am I going to draw it on?
Because
that's nothing, right? You have the open and then you have the close, right?
All right. So then, where does that black line touch it? Because I believe
somewhere over here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I believe that we might test that again.
Yes.
Which is
we're
what?
We're nearing a pivot. We're nearing a pivot. One of these two is going to break, right? Either lower or upper.
Yeah, at this price level, I mean, it would take a lot of capitulation on Litecoin to start to bring it back into or down toward the 105, 100 area. I'm just not seeing that happen yet, just based on the price action here. Bitcoin really would have to take a pretty quick dive for that capitulation to happen, and I'm just not seeing it yet. However, we are starting to continue to see some weakness in kind of the Bitcoin Momo. And, you know, as we retest that 6,400 area again, very interesting to see how that plays out with the price action on Litecoin.
Excellent. Yeah. You know, even if we've talked about a lot of scenarios on Litecoin, and we were talking about like a nut scenario where it drops to 85 quickly and then you jump in. I mean, maybe it goes to 85 sometime in the next couple months or weeks, maybe. But this is a fine place to accumulate too, just kind of in the grand scheme of things. So I actually have a reasonable amount of confidence in Litecoin in this area. You know, look how low the RSI is still pretty low. Even stochastic looks mid-channel, but RSI is pretty low here on the daily, and we do have some nice sideways action. So there's some accumulation here. And you know what? Actually, we are seeing that pattern, Big Jonas. We are seeing that pattern where we're seeing that divergence, where we have that accumulation in stochastics with the sideways RSI. So that actually might be bullish here. Actually, that's something interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and. We'll look at that later, but I think that's something to keep an eye on. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ethereum right now. Ethereum, let's start with the daily chart. I'm going to just remove everything that's there before we get a clean look. We're just starting to recover from oversold on Ethereum, but the candle isn't a great candle, a daily candle so far. You know, we have this upper wick. Let's just go in a little bit closer to the 1 hour because that's how... Yeah, so it's breaking down too, but it's actually holding up a little bit better than Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and scroll back. I want to take a quick peek. Yeah, look at that. So Bitcoin, you know, Bitcoin had this move down. It broke its horizontal support. It looks like Ethereum is kind of still holding on to it. So that's actually noteworthy. We're seeing some divergence here. And we have this really, really beautiful hammer candle here with a long shadow. That was a great buy signal. Big Jonas?
Yeah, Chits, I agree. I think we noticed yesterday that Ether was holding up a little bit better than Litecoin was and Bitcoin was. So we were kind of expecting a little bit more strength heading into this drop here today, and kind of think we're seeing that right now. You know, Ether still remains the most bearish in terms of the depth chart I've seen, but more importantly, it still also had the largest run of them, and I feel because of that, it could still continue to have a very large decline as, you know, Bitcoin basically capitulates. That 6 hour chart that you just pulled up there on GDAX, you know, the first thing that sticks out is that long wick there, which basically kind of, fully encompass that previous 6 hour. And I like looking at the 6 hour.
Almost a bearish engulfing.
Yeah, exactly. Almost a bearish engulfing. And the 6 hour, at least on GDAX, has been pretty accurate, I feel, in terms of watching the trend lines and seeing what has been acting as support. Currently, the orange and the blue here, which is the 12 and the 26, they're still acting as support, even in this red candle here. If those break down, I think that would be a bearish indicator there. But right now, short term, it's kind of holding up here. If you want to zoom out here on the depth chart, just to go all the way out, get a sense here. See, I look at that and I basically see it's like
macro. This is real macro. This is big picture, Big Chonis, right?
correct. This is a more of a broad view, big picture of what we're looking at here. But it's very interesting to see. I feel this is super bearish, even though the angle of the buys, the preset limit orders has kind of tightened up a little bit there. What's interesting is a lot of the walls have been thinned out along the way. The previous few days, we were seeing higher kind of spikes where there was a wall at 300, a wall at 250. Almost feels like a lot of those walls have been kind of spread out, potentially at a lower price point in what people feel the market is to come.
All right. Well, just real quick, I think it's been great analysis. And once again, this is Big Cheds. Find me on Twitter at Big Cheds. That was the one and the only Big Chonis. Find him on Twitter at Big Chonis. Just looking at GDAX, I love to read candlesticks. I also love to read romantic novels, but that's beside the point. What's interesting is, so look back here, Big Chonis. See how we had this bearish engulfing, and then we had a downtrend? Here we had the bearish engulfing, but now we have a bullish harami. We have an inside candle. So this could be a potential, if this somehow can rally, you could put in a 3 inside up or something, because this is a pretty nice candle here. We have a hammer bullish harami. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on. Let's go ahead and real quick, I'm going to take a look at Ethereum. So just to want to wrap this up real quick on Ethereum, it does look a little, oh, it broke it out. Look at that. It already broke that support in the time we were talking. That's interesting. So Ethereum, let's go 15-minute. Let's go 15-minute. Yeah, it's getting kind of oversold here on the 15-minute. So I would keep an eye here. If you're looking for a short-term move, a trade, you're already, look at this, Big Chonis. You're moving below the lower Bollinger Band. So this is due for a little bounce, but up until a moment ago, no, it's still holding support. What am I talking about? It looks okay. This looks a little bit better than Bitcoin, but it's still, it's oversold in the short term. I'm making no sense right now. Save me, Big Chonis.
You're doing just fine, Chaz. Doing just fine. Let's head over back to Bitcoin here, because I think there's some more price action that's going on while we're doing this here. We're starting.
We're losing. We're breaking down.
Yeah, we're continuing to break down there. The volume on that last 15 minutes there was pretty big, almost equal in terms of, very close to some of that volume we saw earlier in that earlier really nasty candle here. So we're not really seeing a lot of buying strength. We are starting to get a little oversold there on the RS-715, but on the hourly here, let's get a sense of what the traders are looking here. Yeah, we're super bottom now on both the stock RSI and the RSI there.
Look at this. Look how low it is. I mean, you can't tell me. We go a little lower though. Look right here. Even when this was 20 here, it went lower. So who knows, man? This actually could go down another couple hundred bucks.
Yeah, we're starting to see some capitulation here, but the thing is that very soon it's going to be approaching at least a short-term oversold issue. I think you're going to see maybe a little bounce come in as to find a little support. I don't think we're going to see that nasty of the candle we had just seen previously this morning because of where we're at here. But if we start testing that 65, 64, if we break, was it 64.50 there, which was that first low we put in there? I think we hit 64 something.
64.33.
Yeah, so if you see a break of 64.33, you're going to see a lot of selling.
New shields up. That's going to be a whole new shields up call, even though we're still in shields up.
Yeah, shields up, red alert, everybody is attacking at the same time. So you're going to see that first test basically of that 6,000. I would assume relatively quick. I wouldn't imagine that we trickle down 63, 62. There is some small supports there in the 61 as well. So at some point, it's going to touch a little 6 area there and see if that can hold up. That does kind of coincide with February 6th, 5th and 6th bottoming area where we were in the 6s and touched a couple spots there as we got right to 6,000 and actually broke it, and we're in the fives for a brief moment as well. So we're looks like we're kind of heading towards that direction there. But as indicators become oversold, you kind of find a little short-term stability and some bounce support. But right now, the bears definitely seem to be in charge of the price action of Bitcoin right now.
Excellent. Let's do. Let's just do. I'm gonna do real quick. A couple quick alts. I see people want to know. They've got a lot of vested interest in some of these. So let's see if we can help these people out real quick. And I'm just gonna do real quick, guys. So I'm sorry if we don't spend as much time as you'd want. XVG is looking pretty darn beautiful. Big Chonis, we did have this ascending triangle breakout on XVG, and I'm going to bring that on screen for you folks. So we did have this nice, see right here, I think we talked about it I tweeted it, I don't know if we talked about it, that ascending triangle breakout, pretty nice in the 4 hour. Let's go 1 hour real quick. And 1 hour is just churning right along. No real warning signs yet. I'm going to draw 2 uptrend lines to keep an eye on to see if this trend continues. I'm going to go, that's just one quick uptrend line. Oopsie, I'm going to draw another one here and fix the bottom while you start talking, Big Jonas.
Yeah, Cheds. I mean, it's really hard to argue with this price action. This one has been a bull, quite frankly, for the past couple weeks there. It hasn't really had a crazy spike up. It hasn't really been kind of super overbought. It's just kind of had this really nice run. Can you zoom out a little more there just to get a sense of where we all started here? So yeah, this is actually a much longer, nicer run there. And now we've actually been able to create lots of bases of support and money flow as the OBV continues to hold tight. Now you brought up there might be a news rumor out there that's kind of running this thing. If that's the case, they were able to push it out a few weeks to kind of allow the market build up in this. There are some indicators here that this has been just a great move here. I mean, what's the percentage point? We're at least over 100% up here in this area here, and on the daily, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're on our 5th really nice green day.
Impressive.
It's very impressive, but we're also setting ourselves up for a big correction. The higher, the steeper the plane here. You see how the Bollingers are spreading out right there. We haven't had that super burst up off the upper Bollinger. It's been pretty methodical, but the last time we did do that, we had a pretty hefty sell-off, basically showing we kind of went a little too high too fast there. So this one has been a beast, but it's getting to a point there where you definitely want to take some profits and kind of sell into some of this strength if you can. It'd be hard to say that an entry at this point until you get kind of a nice retracement, is the best way to go.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think it's all very great. So I think it looks really healthy on the daily chart too. It's hot, but there still is a little bit of room. The OBV is topped off. You don't want to have a potentially, you might see an OBV double top here soon. That's something to kind of keep an eye on for an early warning sign, but it really does look beautiful. I also wouldn't be surprised for a quick, you know how it's kind of almost curving up here, Big Jonas? I wouldn't be surprised for a quick, almost like a parabolic move to 1300 and then a pullback. And then maybe like 2 days of red after that. So, guys, if this we're at 1,000, if you see this at 1,300 within like 24 hours, you got to take some profit. Like, let's not be stupid, all right? Let's go ahead and do, speaking of, let's go to TRX real quick. And TRX, let's go in a little bit closer on a 1 hour chart. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the old, let's see, old lines. Just like Kylo Ren said, let the past die. I'm gonna go ahead. We've been talking about that movie a lot. Wow, we got some really tight Bollinger Band action here. It's like a really skinny snake who hasn't eaten in a while. And so here's what I'm looking for. First thing I want to see is support. I want to see if this area can hold. We keep, every time people ask us, we end up talking about 500 again. So it's really 500, 500, right, Big Jonas?
Yeah, it's tightening up. When the Bollingers get super tight, that all most of the time can foreshadow a imminent move in one direction or another. It definitely has a nice uptrend. You could argue it's kind of in a slight falling wedge since its move here, which
Absolutely.
is definitely a bullish move there. You get consolidation. Volume's been pretty low as the price stays stable. It's always a positive sign. All the OBV has definitely sold off a bit while you have this move here. It's interesting. It's basically almost like you have a situation there where there could be a capitulation move at some point. Yeah, the OBV is a slightly kind of holding
Worrisome.
a little bit. If you want to go to the 4 hour, just to see if we're where we are in terms of like overbought status there. 4 hour shows we could have already reset and potentially maybe setting up for another run. You know, over that time period there, we're still putting in some higher lows, which is good. You know, if that volume comes back in, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a nice little spike up there. Um, yeah, I mean, the chart's still in play. It's still a healthy chart, kind of weird looking. I've seen better. The Verge chart was a little more better than this.
Lower high.
Yeah, you know, and we definitely put in a lower high there on that candle there, showing a little more tightening. This could take a while, though. You might
Yep.
see a lot of sideways action there until something happens there. There's still a lot of money at a lower Satoshi level there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we retest that. Basically, you don't want to, exactly, you don't want to drip under that line there because that big candle there, that green candle there, you don't want to give all that up. And right now, we've given up about half of it.
Yeah.
So we still have some room on the downside there, but as long as we hold your black trend line there, you know, the chart's still in play.
Yeah, and just real quick before we go on another one, we do have this nice candle here. We do have a nice hammer right at the lower Bollinger. So that kind of tells you that when this quickly dipped and there was enough sentiment, buyer sentiment, to come in and push it back up over 500. So I think if this can hang around at 500 for a little while, you might be okay. Let me just see if there's anyone I want to do real quickly. I'm going to go ahead and just real quickly look at the Binance Top 24 and NEO. Let's take a look at NEO real quick. NEO, not the actor. So we are in a bullish pennant right now on NEO because I'm going to go ahead and pull that pattern up for you guys. But that just kind of jumped right out at me. And that is a bullish formation. It's a bullish consolidation formation. And there she blows. So that's our bullish pennant. You guys see that right there? So what you essentially have is you have your flagpole. And then you've got your upper trend line. And this is just really quickly drawn, all right? Don't say, oh, your lines are sloppy. I mean, fine, I'm trying to do it perfect with you guys watching and listening. But that's what I see real quick is I see a bullish pennant consolidation pattern that is potentially nearing its pivot. And by pivot, I mean like its decision point. Its point of deciding if it's going to go up or down. How about you, Big Tuna? What do you see?
Yeah, this is nice, Cheds. I mean, this is definitely setting up for that bullish pennant. I would agree with that. Almost a wedge, like a bullish wedge. If it goes longer, I definitely could see it more as a pennant, but it's almost kind of a equal triangle there. You kind of drew
Symmetrical triangle.
Symmetrical triangle there. So that's slightly different, but a bullish pattern nonetheless. I do like the consolidation on the price. OBV is not bad. You know, it's not bad. The 4 hour shows it could have some movement there. This is a nice looking chart. It's a very healthy chart. It really shows that as long as we can kind of keep this trend moving here, you know, this is a big move here though. So we could give up still some of that last upper wick candle there on the 4 hour in the consolidation phase. Maybe we want to test the middle Bollinger area there just to get some stability as that rises to the price as it falls slightly. So there's definitely some room to consolidate here. But everything looks good, and the hourly basically is showing it could be setting up for its next move there. Just on the daily, real fast here, just to get a sense kind of where we're sitting here. What do you see, Chad?
I just want to show you. I was just trying to figure out. We've got stochastics as reset, but where's the RSI going to settle? Just noticing a kind of a horizontal support area. So we might go a tiny bit lower, which is coincide with the lower trend line. Mm-hmm. So this is winding up for a nice technical move in maybe a couple hours as the Bollinger's pinch, and we get right to that pivot. So keep an eye on that. But you want to see the daily?
Yeah, the more sideways action you get, the better you kind of see that base basically hold. You know, the daily also shows that it could have some room to run. The RSI shows definitely could have some room for run, and I do like the uptick in the OBV. So NEO is definitely a coin to watch as the next few days as price action plays out, as long as the volume comes in there. And you can also see some definite kind of bottom loading volume there. I like how the candles are roughly the same size there as we're going slightly sideways to a little down, but not that bad there. It kind of set up this move here. That's kind of a nice set up there, and it was kind of definitely a hidden bullish divergence there, and that's really something you want to have an eye on.
Excellent, excellent. I'm just gonna do one more that I saw requested in the chat room, and then we're gonna part ways, my friends, just for the moment, not forever, I promise. And once again, this is Big Cheds. Find me on Twitter at Big Cheds. That's the one, the only, the very lovable Big Chonis. And please do check out chedstrading.blogspot.com, the complete beginner's guide to cryptocurrency trading and gardening. BNB on the daily chart. It's consolidating. It's in a nice uptrend here. So far, we have Big Chonis. We have a nice inside bar here, where we've been pulling back, and it looks like we may be finding a bottom where we have a bullish harami, where we're just resetting. So it's like, if this is going to continue, see how it paused back here, Big Chonis, and then we could be doing that pause again. So this could be getting ready for a new leg up on the 4 hour. Let's just see how it looks on the 4 hour. Yeah, I mean, it's cooled off. We have the downtrend now. We have our downtrend breaking a little bit of sideways. So this is potentially, I mean, it's what do you want it to be? It could be a bear flag, it could be a bull pennant. I don't know, man. We got to see what happens, right? But the daily looks like it's setting up nicely. What do you think?
Yeah, Chad, this one's been moving pretty nicely. I do like some of the reset. The 4 hour does show that it could basically make another move here. The volume's been pretty consistent, you know. We've had a lot of selling from that top off there, but we definitely are consolidating. OBV, yeah, it's not terrible. It's not terrible there.
The lower highs, though, so this is kind of, and lower lows now, too. So we have to see some strength. I mean, the daily chart, but go ahead. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, of the charts we looked at today, even with this move, this still looks kind of like the weakest, but it's still kind of doing this flagging pattern here with a slight decline as it consolidates, which is bullishness. You know, as I mentioned, I like the volume with the consistency of the volume there, you know, on the 1 hour there.
See, look at this, though. This is what caught my eye last night, Big Chonis. You see this bullish divergence, so which is kind of nice. So you see, if you start right here, do you see how we have these lower highs in the unbalanced volume, right, while the price is still falling? So that was a signifier, an early signifier of a downtrend break, and you had the downtrend break. You see that? So, I mean, if you were keeping a keen eye, boom, right here, and so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised if we retest your upper trend line there.
Absolutely.
Based on this price action here. And, you know, as a trader, that would be a great position to basically take profits and look for that super bullish move that would break out of that channel and begin to put in another leg. We're not really seeing that yet. We're still in this consolidation phase. The longer we consolidate, the stronger that next leg could be as well.
Excellent. Excellent. So we're just going to basically wrap it up right there. I'm going to very quickly go ahead and show you guys Bitcoin once again. And let's go ahead and see how that looks here. So Bitcoin, we're kind of right where we were. You know, when we first started this little update, Bitcoin was starting to fall, and now it's putting a new leg down. What we talked about, I think it can go even lower on the RSI hourly. Here, I think, again, you want to look to see it test and hold 6,400 area.
Yeah, I mean, we're finding a little support here. We talked about that a few minutes ago. This one's going to play out the way it is. You know, we're going to probably retest those 6,500 area lows unless we're able to put some sort of a support in for a little higher low and try and continue this move here. This could begin to stabilize again. There weren't a lot of sellers once we were touching the 6,500 area there. So if we start to see that, that would be definitely a new development that we have not seen in this kind of current downtrend there. If we do end up breaking that 6,400 area, you know, that double test of that early February lows is definitely in the cards, and it'll be interesting to see how that affects Litecoin, Ethereum, and the rest of the alts.
Excellent, excellent analysis. Once again, that was the one and only Big Chonis. On Twitter at Big Chonis. I am Big Cheds. We are not advisors. We're just a couple of friends. We like to talk crypto. We've been doing it for years, and we said, why don't we broadcast it and see if anybody likes it? And so far, you guys are liking it. So we appreciate the feedback. We thrive. We love your feedback. It keeps us going. You know, while we're having beers, we say, hey, did you see what that one guy said? And it's really, we love the feedback. So, you know, we do it for you guys, and you do it for us. So Stay safe. Don't force your trades. Be patient. And we hope that everybody does well. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.